how does this roster compare to the roster that went to the Super Bowl, in your opinion?
I think if you have to take this and let's take a look at it position by position, group by group, because I think if you start off at the quarterbacks, you have Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo. Those are your top two guys, and I think everybody would agree that that's better than what they had in 2019 with Garoppolo and Mullins, even though we never saw Mullins on the field at that point.
Yes. Yes.
So quarterback is an improvement. As we go through this, we're also projecting some stuff, right? Because we don't know what Lance is yet. When we look at the running back room, we don't know what Trey Sermon is exactly yet. But if you just look at that group seems to be, if not as good, maybe a little bit better, because you've still got Mostert back there. He's going to be your game breaker. Sermon would be taking the place. Would be your maybe your starter. That's going to be able to beat up the defense a little bit. And then you have a couple of other guys there that kind of fill in that third running back role who doesn't get used a lot. But I think both of those groups are at least the same, maybe a little bit better. And then you jump to the receivers. And at the wide receiver position, there's definitely an improvement there. Even though we have questions on who the number 3 wide receiver is going to be. If you go back to 2019, week 1, you got to remember week 1 of 2019, you had Marquise Goodwin as a starter, opposite of Deebo Samuel, who started the week 1 as a rookie. And so that was your starting lineup. And so there's definitely an improvement there as well, because Brandon Ayuk is a huge upgrade over Marquise Goodwin. So I think on the offensive side, well, even if we jump to the offensive line, it's the same way. You've got a center. Alex Mack is much better than what they had in 2019. And I think that Aaron Banks is going to prove out to be better than Mike Person as well. So I think on the offensive side of the ball, you're better across the board, really. And then when you go to the defensive side, the secondary is pretty much the same. The only guy that's changed out is Jason Verrett taking the place of Richard Sherman. If you remember back when Sherman first joined the 49ers, we weren't sure of his ability to stay healthy. He did for the most part in 2018 and 2019. And Mosley, ended up taking over that other cornerback role anyway. So I think they're better, and they're as good in the secondary, maybe a little bit better, because Verrett's an upgrade over Richard Sherman.
Yeah.
Linebackers are about the same, because you've got Dre Greenlaw, who proved out to be better than Quan Alexander. That's why they got rid of Alexander and replaced him with Greenlaw. The one spot that I don't know of, I don't think they're quite as good as the defensive line. I think that's where you see the difference between 2019 and 2021. And I know we're projecting here, but you still have Nick Bosa coming off of an injury. Even if he gets back to the same level as he was the year before, is he going to get back to 9 sacks? We don't have D Ford. There's no D Ford on the field, but you have Samson Ebukam. Is Ebukam going to be able to give you 6.5 sacks like Ford gave you that season? Yeah. And then inside, is Javon Kinlaw going to be able to give you 5 to 7 sacks? I can't remember exactly what those numbers were inside, but they were, I know for a fact that the guy he replaced, which was DeForest Buckner, he had 7.5 sacks. Mm-hmm. So are they going to be able to somehow manufacture, we're looking at about 10, the sacks that they've lost, Ronald Blair had 3, Solomon Thomas had 2. So if you just think of that as those guys as interior guys, especially Thomas, that was 2, plus 7.5 by Buckner. So that's 9.5. And Jones had 2 as well. So are they going to be able to manufacture about 12 sacks from those interior players? And that could be tough, considering Javon Kinlaw probably isn't going to get you more than 4 or 5 sacks.
All right.
What do you think?
Well, we're going to get into our Javon Kinlaw expectation in a minute and really focus on him. But I think in terms of the big picture differences of these two teams, I agree the D-line is a big one. And I think the depth is another. I think that other team was a little deeper. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo was cheaper. George Kittle was way cheap. Fred Warner was still cheap. Who else? DeForest Buckner was cheap. DeForest Buckner was on the 4th year of his rookie deal. His cap hit was $5 million. So I think their money might have been a little bit more evenly distributed. I mean, Tavares Moore still had 2 Achilles tendons and all that. So There's that, and then also the X factor of losing Salah is the other thing. But really, I do think this team is quite similar to the one you pointed out. How they're better in certain places, especially on offense. I agree. I do think Jason Verrett is a big time upgrade over Richard Sherman, so I could see that it's actually pretty close. The only real loss they lost Kendrick Bourne. I don't know that they have a real replacement for him yet, but I don't know if they don't either. They might. Sanu, Jennings, it could be. They might have him. So it's closer than you think. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. And I didn't take into account the fact that the coaching changed on the defense, because I think that that is a big point.
That's an X factor
that I think we're overlooking.